In this video, I'm going to explain how to use remember and remind so that these doubts can be cleared out once and for all. Hello, my name is Krystallo from Crystal Clear English, and today I'm going to explain everything you need to know about remember and remind. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Let's start then. Remember and remind are big chapters of the English language, and they are easily confused because there are way too many options. Let's start. To remember. To remember means to have or to possess a memory of a thing, of a person, of an action. For example, you remember your telephone number. As you can see in this situation, I'm using a noun, a telephone number. And it could be different things. For example, do you remember my name? I remember the license plate. I remember the location. You remember the address. You remember your teacher who taught you English at school. All of these things are relatively easy to understand because you possess the memory of this thing or of this person. However, remember has more combinations than just simply a noun. It has also a gerund or an infinitive. So, as I mentioned here before, you remember your telephone number because it's that of a noun. But along with a noun, you can also have the same type of memories with a gerund, which is the ing. I've always tell my students the same thing. A gerund and a noun are exactly the same. So when you use a gerund, what you're actually talking about is that in the form of a noun. For example, swimming as a sport is a noun, even though it's a gerund form, or because it is a gerund form, it is the noun. With the same idea, with the same concept, I would like us to consider that when we use the gerund, we're using the remembering of a memory. For example, I remember studying this at school. You see, in this situation, I'm using a gerund, which takes exactly the same function as that of a noun, a memory. So you have a memory. But we have another option, and that third option is using remember with the infinitive. You remember to do something. Typically, when we use the infinitive, it's about initiating an action. You're not remembering the memory, but you're remembering to initiate something else. For example, as I mentioned, the third option is that of the infinitive. And the infinitive is typically to plus the verb. For example, remember to turn off the oven when you finish cooking. Now, in this use of the infinitive, with this example, what we're doing is we're trying to insist or to make sure that this person remembers to initiate the action. That's why we use infinitive. It's for something that hasn't happened yet. Whereas with the gerund, it's a past memory. Now, this is an interesting distinction. Okay, so let's see. So with the gerund, what we're usually remembering is a past action. Whereas with the infinitive, we're talking about remembering. What we want is this person to remember to initiate an action that has yet to happen. Now, this is the big difference between remember doing and remember to do. But this video is more about just remember. This video is also about remind. So let's look at that now. Well, beforehand, we talked about how remember is about possessing, about having a memory. To remind is about bringing or provoking a memory. With remind, we have common uses. One, with of. The first one is with of, followed by a noun or a gerund. For example, you remind me of my sister. You see, in this situation, what happens is that one person, you, bring the memory to me of my sister. The idea of this sentence is that you provoke this memory to me of my sister. Another example, this song reminds me of my childhood. This combination of off plus noun or gerund is when someone provokes a past memory. But there are more options. We can also use remind with about, again followed by a noun or a gerund. For example, my phone reminded me about the meeting. Or another example, they called me to remind me about the appointment. There are two more options. Oof. Remember and remind, like I said before, our big chapters can be very confusing. And if you have any questions, please write in the comment section below, and I will do my best to clarify these questions. The next one, and that for me is the easiest. You can use remind also with a complete phrase or sentence. For example, she reminded me that we have a meeting. You will notice that in the previous example, my phone reminded me about the meeting, and she reminded me that we had a meeting. It's the same, are the same things, and that's fine. The sentence is just giving more information. It's not obligatory, but you can use it without problem. Finally, the last part of remind is that with the infinitive. And it's exactly the same as with remember. It's about initiating an action. For example, remind me to call. In all of these uses of remind, a thing or a person provokes a memory to someone else. Whereas remember, someone already possesses a memory. There's no transfer, there's no provoking. This is a big difference between remember and remind. All the different options that exist with remember and remind separately make these two verbs some of the most complicated verbs in English. I hope this explanation has helped you. If you want to practice with these two verbs, you can go on our platform and do all the activities that we have with remember and remind. There are quite a few and you can practice with them. I hope you found this useful. See you next time.